The peaceful observers, Captain Elena Vasquez, stood before the massive viewing screen of the exploration vessel Harmony's Dream, watching distant stars slowly drift past. The ship moved through the void like a gentle giant, its white hull reflecting the soft glow of nearby nebulae. Elena had been exploring the outer rim of known space for 12 years now, and the wonder of discovery still filled her heart every morning. The Harmony's Dream was not built for war. Its curved lines and transparent observation decks spoke of humanity's commitment to peaceful exploration. The ship carried 300 souls, all dedicated to understanding the universe rather than conquering it. Scientists, engineers, doctors, and artists worked together in harmony, studying star formations, cataloging new species, and documenting the incredible diversity of life among the stars. Dr. Marcus Chen approached Elena's position, holding a steaming cup of coffee in each hand. The chief scientist was a thin man with kind eyes who had spent most of his adult life in space. He handed Elena one of the cups and smiled. "Good morning, Captain. Sleep well." Elena accepted the coffee gratefully, as well as anyone can when we're 3 months away from the nearest human outpost. Any interesting discoveries overnight? Marcus activated his tablet and showed Elena a series of colorful images. The probe we sent to the Helix system returned some fascinating data. There's a planet there with crystal formations that seem to generate their own energy. Completely natural, but more efficient than our best solar collectors. Before Elena could respond, Lieutenant Sarah Kim's voice crackled through the ship's communication system. "Captain Vasquez, to the bridge, please. We have visitors." Elena and Marcus exchanged glances. In all their years of exploration, unexpected visitors were rare and usually significant. They made their way to the bridge where Lieutenant Kim stood. At her communication station, her face pale with excitement and concern. "Report," Lieutenant Elena said as she took her captain's chair. Sarah turned toward her captain, holding an earpiece. "We detected 4 ships approaching from the Andromeda Drift. They're not human designs, and they're broadcasting on multiple frequencies. The message is a request for peaceful contact." Elena felt her pulse quicken. First contact situations were always delicate, requiring careful consideration of both human safety and diplomatic protocol. What do we know about their technology level? Dr. Chen was already studying the sensor readings on his station. Their ships appear to be more advanced than ours. Captain, energy signatures I've never seen before, and they're traveling faster than our fastest vessels. But they're keeping their distance and haven't shown any hostile behavior. Elena nodded slowly. Earth's exploration protocols were clear about first contact situations. Humanity had encountered 17 different alien species over the past century, and most encounters had been peaceful. The key was to remain calm, show respect, and avoid any actions that might be interpreted as threatening. "Open a communication channel, Lieutenant Kim. Let them know we're willing to meet." Sarah worked at her console for several minutes before looking up. "Channel open, Captain." "They're responding." The main screen flickered, and suddenly Elena found herself looking at 4 alien beings standing in what appeared to be the bridge of their ship. They were tall and elegant, with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer in their ship's lighting. Their heads were larger than human heads, with prominent foreheads and large, dark eyes that held an unmistakable intelligence. They wore flowing robes of deep purple, and their movements were graceful and deliberate. The alien in the center stepped forward and began to speak. Their voice was melodious, almost musical, but Elena could hear sadness beneath the beautiful tones. "Greetings. beings of the vessel Harmony's Dream. I am Ambassador Thyrak of the Zephyrian Alliance. We come seeking those who call themselves humans. Alina stood and faced the screen. I am Captain Alina Vasquez. Welcome, Ambassador Thyrak. How may we assist you? Ambassador Thyrak's large eyes seemed to study Alina carefully before responding. Captain Vasquez, we have traveled far to find your species. We have heard stories of human courage and ingenuity. We come with a request that weighs heavily upon our hearts. Dr. Chen moved closer to Elena's position, his scientific curiosity clearly engaged. Ambassador, forgive the question, but how did you learn about humanity? Our species has only been exploring this region of space for a few decades. One of the other Zephyrians stepped forward. This one was smaller and wore robes of silver instead of purple. I am Scholar Vethelin. We have encountered the traders who spoke of remarkable beings from a world called Earth. They described a species that solved problems in unique ways, who showed compassion to strangers, and who had never been conquered by any empire. Alina felt a mix of pride and concern. Humanity's reputation was apparently spreading through the galaxy, but she wondered why the Zephyrians had sought them out specifically. What kind of request brings you so far from your home, Ambassador? The Rak's expression grew even more sorrowful. Captain, our alliance is dying. For 200 years, we have been fighting a war against an empire that seeks to enslave every free species in the galaxy. They call themselves the Shadowkin, and they are unlike anything you have ever encountered. Lieutenant Kim had been quietly recording the conversation, but now she spoke up. What makes them so dangerous? Scholar Vethelin activated a device that projected holographic images above their communication console. The images showed massive black ships with angular designs that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The Shadowkin Empire has conquered 47 different species. They do not simply defeat their enemies, they erase them. Entire civilizations vanish, their knowledge stolen, their people enslaved or destroyed. The images changed to show planets, covered in dark structures, like metal tumors growing across once beautiful worlds. Alina felt her stomach tighten as she watched. How many species are fighting against them? 12 species remain in our alliance, Ambassador Thyrak replied. We began with 31. The others. He paused, his voice filled with grief. Some were conquered, others surrendered in hope of mercy. None received it. Dr. Chen was studying the holographic displays with intense concentration. Their technology appears to be significantly more advanced than what we've encountered before. How have you managed to resist them for so long? Through unity and sacrifice, the Rek answered. But we are losing ground every year. Our resources are depleted, our fleets reduced to a fraction of their original size. We estimate that within 5 years, the Shadowkin will have conquered every free world in this region of the galaxy. Alina understood where this conversation was leading, and she felt her heart grow heavy. Ambassador, what exactly are you asking of humanity? Thyrak looked directly into Elena's eyes, and she could see the desperation he had been trying to hide. Captain, we have studied your species from afar. Humans possess something rare in the galaxy, a combination of creativity, determination, and tactical thinking that could change the course of this war. We ask that humanity join our alliance and help us defeat the Shadowkin Empire. The bridge of the Harmony's Dream fell silent except for the gentle hum of the ship's systems. Alina felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her. She was an explorer, not a military commander, and the decision being requested was far beyond her authority to make. Ambassador Chiraki, Elena said carefully, I am honored that you would travel so far to request our aid. But I must be honest. With you, humanity has maintained a policy of neutrality in galactic conflicts. We are explorers and scientists, not warriors. Scholar Vethelin stepped forward again. But Captain, the stories we have heard suggest that humans are excellent fighters when the need arises. The Centaurian traders spoke of human military tactics that were unlike anything they had seen. Dr. Chen nodded slowly. It's true that humans have a long history of warfare, but in recent centuries we've chosen to focus our energies on peaceful exploration and scientific advancement. And what happens when the Shadowkin reach your space? Thyrak asked quietly. They will not care about your peaceful intentions. They will see only another species to be conquered, another world to be consumed. Alina felt a chill run down her spine. The question was fair and troubling. Has Earth been threatened directly? Not yet, Thyrak admitted. Your world lies in a region the Shadowkin have not yet reached, but empires like theirs never stop expanding. Eventually, they will come for every inhabited world in the galaxy. Lieutenant Kim had been monitoring Earth communications during the conversation. Captain, I'm receiving a priority message from Earth Command. They're requesting a full report on this contact situation. Alina nodded. Ambassador Thyrak, I need to consult with my government before I can give you any kind of answer. Would you be willing to wait while I communicate with Earth? Of course, Captain, we understand that such decisions cannot be made quickly. We will remain in this system for as long as necessary. The communication with Earth took 6 hours due to the vast distances involved. During that time, Alina found herself walking the corridors of her ship, thinking about the choice that lay before humanity. She visited the botanical gardens where Dr. Sarah Martinez tended to plants from dozens of different worlds, creating beautiful displays that reminded everyone aboard of the diversity and wonder of life in the universe. In the Children's Education Center, she watched young Tommy Chen, Dr. Marcus Chen's 8-year-old son, working on an art project that depicted humans and aliens living together in peace. The boy looked up at her with bright, curious eyes. Captain Alina, are the new aliens nice? Alina knelt down beside Tommy's desk. They seem to be very nice, Tommy. They're asking for our help with a problem they're having. Are we going to help them? The boy asked innocently. That's a very complicated question, Tommy. Sometimes helping means getting involved in situations that might be dangerous. Tommy considered this seriously, then returned to his artwork. My dad says that good people help other good people when they can. Alina smiled despite her worries. Your dad is a very wise man. When the response finally came from Earth, Alina was not surprised by its content. She requested Ambassador Thyrak and his delegation to beam aboard the Harmony's Dream for a face-to-face meeting. The Zephyrians accepted immediately. The meeting took place in the ship's largest conference room, which had been decorated with examples of human art and culture to help their guests understand humanity better. Ambassador Thyrak and Scholar Vethelin were joined by 2 other Zephyrians, a military commander named General Corthel and a scientist called Dr. Plender. Alina sat across from the alien delegation, flanked by Dr. Chen and Lieutenant Kim. She had spent considerable time preparing for this moment, knowing that her words might have consequences far beyond her ship. Ambassador Thyrak, Alina began, I have received a response from Earth regarding your request. I want you to know that this decision was not made lightly, and it comes with great respect for your courage and the sacrifices your people have made. Dirac leaned forward slightly, His large eyes focused intently on Elena's face. However, Elena continued, Earth's government has decided to maintain our policy of neutrality in galactic conflicts. We will not be able to provide military assistance to your alliance. The silence that followed was profound. Elena could see disappointment and sadness in the faces of all Zephyrians, but no anger or resentment. Finally, Thyrax spoke. Captain Vasquez, may I ask what factors influenced this decision? Elena had prepared for this question. Ambassador, humanity has learned from our own history that wars, even those fought with good intentions, often create more suffering than they prevent. We believe that our role in the galaxy is to explore, to learn, and to help species understand each other better. General Corthol, who had remained silent until now, spoke up. His voice was deeper than the others, with a note of frustration. But Captain, what good is understanding when entire civilizations are being erased? How can exploration continue when there are no free worlds left to explore? Dr. Chen answered thoughtfully. General, we understand your frustration, and we don't make this decision out of cowardice. We make it because we believe that violence should always be the last resort, and that there might be other ways to resolve conflicts. Other ways? Scholar Vethelin asked. Captain, we have tried diplomacy with the Shadowkin for decades. They do not negotiate. They do not compromise. They only conquer and destroy. Elena felt the weight of their words, but she held firm to Earth's decision. Ambassador, while we cannot provide military assistance, we would be happy to offer other forms of aid, medical supplies, food, technology that might help your people survive. Thyrax stood slowly, his elegant form rising to its full height. Captain Vasquez, we appreciate your offer of humanitarian aid, but what we need most is hope. Hope that this war can be won, that free species can continue to exist in this galaxy. Without military support, I fear that hope will die with us. The meeting continued for another hour, with the Zephyrians sharing more details about the Shadowkin threat and their own desperate situation. They spoke of worlds where every living being had been enslaved, of species whose entire cultures had been wiped out, of children who would never know freedom. Despite the emotional impact of these stories, Elena maintained her position. Earth had made its choice, and she would honor it. As the Zephyrians prepared to leave, Ambassador Thyrak approached Elena one final time. Captain, I hope that your people never have to learn what it feels like to face an enemy like the Shadowkin. Peace is precious, but sometimes it must be defended with more than good intentions. Elena walked with the delegation to their shuttle bay. As they prepared to depart, Scholar Vethelin handed her a small device. This contains our complete historical records, our scientific knowledge, and our cultural achievements. If our alliance falls, at least some record of who we were will survive. After the Zephyrians left, Elena stood in the observation deck and watched their ships disappear into the vastness of space. Dr. Chen joined her, and they stood together in comfortable silence for several minutes. Do you think we made the right choice? Chen asked finally. Elena continued staring out at the stars. I think we made the choice that Earth believed was right. Whether history will judge it as correct, only time will tell. Those aliens seemed genuinely desperate, Lieutenant Kim said as she approached them. And their data about the Shadowkin Empire was extensive. The threat appears to be real. I know, Elena replied. But Earth's position is that getting involved in alien wars will only lead to more conflict and suffering. We've seen what happens when civilizations choose warfare over diplomacy. Dr. Chen activated his tablet and showed Alina the data the Zephyrians had shared. Their technology is impressive, but their military situation seems hopeless. Even if Earth had agreed to help, I'm not sure it would have made a difference. Alina turned away from the viewing screen and walked toward the bridge. Set course for the Kepler sector, Lieutenant. We have 3 more systems to survey before we return to Earth. As the Harmony's Dream changed course and began moving toward their next destination, Alina couldn't shake the image of Ambassador Thyrak's eyes or the weight of his final words. Somewhere in the darkness of space, a war was being fought for the freedom of entire civilizations, and humanity had chosen to remain on the sidelines. In the months that followed, Alina often thought about the Zephyrians and wondered how their war was progressing. The ship's mission continued as planned, with new discoveries and peaceful contacts with other species. But always in the back of her mind was the question of whether choosing peace was always the right choice, even when others were fighting for their very survival. The answer to that question would come sooner than anyone expected, and it would change everything humanity thought they knew about their place in the galaxy. The terrible mistakes. 6 months had passed since the encounter with the Zephyrian Alliance, and life aboard the Harmony's Dream had returned to its peaceful routine. Captain Alina Vasquez had filed her reports with Earth Command and continued with the mission of exploration and discovery. The ship was currently conducting a survey of the Kepler sector, a region of space known for its beautiful star formations and rich mineral deposits. Dr. Marcus Chen was in his laboratory, analyzing samples from a moon that appeared to be entirely composed of crystallized water, when Lieutenant Sarah Kim's voice echoed through the ship's communication system. Captain, Vasquez to the bridge immediately. We have a priority distress signal. Alina felt a familiar knot form in her stomach. In 12 years of exploration, she had learned that distress signals in deep space were rarely good news. She arrived at the bridge to find her crew gathered around the communication station, their faces grave. Report, Lieutenant, Alina said. Taking her position at the captain's chair, Sarah looked up from her console, her expression troubled. We're receiving a distress beacon from the New Geneva colony. It's one of our research outposts, about 4 light-years from here. The signal is weak and intermittent, but it's definitely a code black emergency. Alina felt her blood run cold. Code Black was the highest level of emergency in the colonial defense system, reserved for situations where civilian lives were in immediate danger. How many people are stationed at New Geneva? Dr. Chen had accessed the colonial database from his station. According to the records, New Geneva houses approximately 800 people. It's primarily a research facility focused on terraforming technologies, but they also have families there, children. Set course for New Geneva immediately, Alina ordered. Maximum speed. As the Harmony's Dream changed course and accelerated toward the colony, Alina tried to reach the outpost directly. The communication attempts failed repeatedly, receiving only static in response. The distress beacon continued to broadcast, but no human voices answered their calls. The journey to New Geneva took 14 hours. During that time, Alina paced the bridge, unable to shake the feeling that something terrible had happened. Dr. Chen spent the time analyzing the distress signal, trying to extract any additional information from its weak transmission. When they finally arrived at the New Geneva system, what they found horrified them beyond words. The colony had been built on a beautiful green world with 3 moons, a planet that reminded many colonists of Earth. Now, as the Harmony's Dream approached, They could see massive scars burned into the planet's surface. Cities that had once been home to hundreds of families were now nothing but smoking craters. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Kim, staring at the sensor readings. "The entire northern continent has been devastated." Alina stood at the main viewing screen, watching in stunned silence as their ship entered orbit around the ruined world. "Are there any survivors?" Dr. Chen was working frantically at his station, scanning for life signs. "I'm detecting some scattered groups of people, but the numbers are..." He paused, his voice breaking. "Captain, I'm reading less than 200 life signs on the entire planet." Alina felt as if the air had been sucked from her lungs. New Geneva had been home to 800 people, men, women, and children who had been building a new life. Among the stars, now only a quarter of them remained alive. "Launch all rescue shuttles," Elena ordered. "Medical teams, emergency supplies, everything we have, and get me a communication link with the survivors." The first rescue shuttle was piloted by Dr. Lisa Park, the ship's chief medical officer. She was a woman who had seen her share of emergencies. But nothing had prepared her for what she found on the surface of New Geneva. The main colony was completely destroyed, with buildings reduced to twisted metal and concrete. The survivors were gathered in underground shelters, their faces hollow with shock and grief. Governor Patricia Stone, the colony's leader, met Dr. Park at the entrance to the largest shelter. The woman who had once been vibrant and energetic now looked aged by years of suffering in a single day. Her left arm was in a makeshift sling, and her clothes were torn and stained with blood. "Dr. Park," Governor Stone said, her voice barely above a whisper, "thank God you're here. We thought no one would come." Dr. Park embraced the governor gently, mindful of her injuries. "We received your distress signal." "What happened here, Patricia?" Governor Stone led Dr. Park into the shelter, where dozens of survivors were caring for the wounded. Many were children, their eyes wide with fear and confusion. Ships came out of nowhere. Black ships, unlike anything we'd ever seen. They didn't try to communicate, didn't make any demands. They just started destroying everything. As Dr. Park began treating the wounded, Governor Stone continued her account. They targeted the residential areas first, the schools, the hospitals, the places where families lived. It was like they wanted to cause as much suffering as possible. One of the survivors, a young man named David Martinez, approached them. He was holding a data recorder, his hands shaking as he spoke. "I was in the communications center when it started. I managed to record some of the attack. You need to see this." Back on the Harmony's Dream, Captain Vasquez watched the recorded footage with growing horror and rage. The images showed massive black ships descending from the sky, their angular hulls absorbing light like mechanical parasites. Beams of energy lanced down from the ships, but instead of targeting military installations or infrastructure, they struck homes, schools, and medical centers. Alina watched children running in panic as their playground was vaporized. She saw a hospital explode just as doctors were evacuating patients. The attacks were not random. They were calculated to cause maximum psychological damage. "These aren't military tactics," Dr. Chen said, his voice filled with disgust. "This is terrorism." Lieutenant Kim had been analyzing the ship designs captured in the footage. "Captain, these match the descriptions the Zephyrians gave us of Shadowkin vessels. This was definitely the empire they warned us about." Alina felt a cold realization settling over her. They found us. Over the next several hours, more details emerged from the survivors. The attack had lasted only 30 minutes, but in that time, the Shadowkin had managed to kill or capture 600 people. Those who survived did so only because they had been in deep underground facilities when the attack began. Dr. Park worked tirelessly to treat the wounded, but many of the injuries were beyond what their medical facilities could handle. Children had been separated from their parents, families torn apart by the sudden violence. The psychological trauma was as severe as the physical injuries Alina made. The difficult decision to evacuate all survivors to the Harmony's Dream, as the rescue shuttles brought the last of the colonists aboard. She found herself in the ship's medical bay, watching Dr. Park treat a young girl who had lost both her parents in the attack. The girl, who couldn't have been more than 10 years old, stared at the ceiling with empty eyes. Her physical injuries were minor, but Alina could see that something fundamental had been broken inside her. The child had learned, in the most brutal way possible, that the universe was not a safe place. Governor Stone approached Alina as she stood watching the medical team's work. "Captain, there's something else you need to know. Before the attack, we received a transmission from the Shadowkin ships." Alina turned to face the governor. "What kind of transmission?" "A message directed, specifically at humanity. They said that any species that refused to join their enemies would be taught the consequences of neutrality. They said that peaceful species were the easiest to conquer." Alina felt rage building in her chest, a cold fury unlike anything she had ever experienced. "They attacked us because we wouldn't join the war against them. It gets worse, Governor," Stone continued. "They said that this was just the beginning, that every human colony, every human world, would learn what happens to species that think they can ignore the Shadowkin Empire." Alina walked to the nearest communication console and opened a priority channel to Earth. The transmission would take hours to reach its destination, but she needed to send it immediately. "Earth Command, this is Captain Alina Vasquez of the Harmonies. Dream, I am sending you footage and data from the attack on New Geneva Colony. The Shadowkin Empire has declared war on humanity by targeting our civilians. 600 people are dead, including children. This was not a military action. It was genocide." Alina paused, choosing her words carefully. "I want to make something clear to whoever is listening to this message. The Shadowkin attacked us because we chose neutrality. They saw our peaceful nature as weakness, and they decided to make an example of us. They were wrong." The message continued for another 10 minutes, with Alina providing detailed accounts of the attack and the survivors' testimonies. When she finished, she felt drained but determined. Earth needed to know that their policy of neutrality had failed to protect them. 3 days later, as the Harmony's Dream was en route to the nearest Earth facility with the New Geneva survivors, they received a response that would change everything. The communication came directly from Earth's president, Rachel Morrison, and it was broadcast not just to Alina's ship, but to every human vessel and colony in the galaxy. Alina gathered her crew in the main conference room to listen to the message together. President Morrison's face appeared on the screen, her expression grave but determined. "Citizens of Earth and all human colonies, 3 days ago, the Empire committed an act of war against humanity by attacking the peaceful research colony of New Geneva. 600 innocent people were murdered in a deliberate act of terrorism designed to intimidate our species." Alina could see the anger in the president's eyes, a reflection of what she felt in her own heart. "The Shadowkin believed that our commitment to peace made us weak. They thought that by threatening our civilians, they could force us to submit to their empire. They were wrong, President Morrison continued. Humanity has remained peaceful by choice, not because we were incapable of defending ourselves. The President paused, and Alina could see her gathering her resolve for what came next. Effective immediately, I am authorizing the activation of the Terran Defense Initiative. For the past 50 years, Earth has been quietly preparing for the possibility that our peaceful exploration of the galaxy might one day be threatened. We hoped we would never need to use these preparations, but the Shadowkin have forced our hand. Alina felt her pulse quicken. She had heard rumors of secret military projects, but she had never imagined the scope of what the President was describing. The Shadowkin Empire will learn that there is a difference between choosing peace and being unable to fight. They will discover that humanity's greatest strength is not our weapons or our technology, but our ability to unite in the face of threats to our families and our freedom. The transmission ended with President Morrison's final words to the Shadowkin Empire. You have made a grave mistake. You attacked the wrong species. Humanity is coming. Within hours of the President's announcement, Alina began receiving reports of massive military mobilization throughout human space. Ships that had been disguised as cargo vessels revealed themselves to be advanced warships. Colonies that had claimed to be research outposts activated defensive systems that rivaled anything the galaxy had seen. Most shocking of all, Earth itself began to change. The planet that had presented itself as a peaceful world of explorers and scientists suddenly bristled with orbital defense platforms and military installations that had been hidden for decades. Alina received new orders within days. The Harmony's dream was to rendezvous with a fleet of military vessels at coordinates deep in human space. When they arrived at the meeting point, Alina found herself staring at a sight that took her breath away. Admiral Harrison Brooks, a man Alina had never heard of before, commanded a fleet of 300 warships. These were not the elegant exploration vessels that most aliens associated with humanity. These were instruments of war, designed with one purpose: to fight and win battles against any enemy that threatened human civilization. Admiral Brooks contacted Alina's ship personally. Captain Vasquez, I've read your reports on the New Geneva attack and your earlier contact with the Zephyrian Alliance. Your ship will be joining our fleet as we move to engage the Shadowkin Empire. Alina felt a mix of anticipation and dread. Admiral, what are our objectives? Our first objective is to make contact with the surviving members of the Zephyrian Alliance and coordinate our efforts against the Shadowkin. Our second objective is to demonstrate to the galaxy that humanity is not the easy target the Shadowkin believed us to be. The fleet began moving toward the last known position of the Zephyrian Alliance, and Alina found herself thinking about Ambassador Thurrock and his people. 6 months ago, she had been forced to refuse their request for aid. Now humanity was coming to join their fight, not out of altruism, but out of a desire for justice. As the human fleet traveled through space, Alina spent time with the survivors from New Geneva. Many of them had requested to remain aboard the Harmony's Dream rather than being transferred to civilian vessels. They wanted to see the Shadowkin Empire brought to justice for what had been done to their families. Dr. Lisa Park, who had lost her husband and 2 children in the attack, approached Alina one evening as she stood in the observation deck. Captain, do you think we can win this war? Alina looked out at the massive fleet surrounding their ship. Dr. Park, I think the Shadowkin Empire is about to learn something that our species has known for centuries. Humans are at their most dangerous when someone threatens their families. The fleet continued its journey toward the war zone, carrying with it the hopes and anger of an entire species. The Shadowkin had believed that attacking civilians would make humanity surrender. Instead, they had awakened something that had been sleeping in the human spirit for generations. Alina thought about the young girl in the medical bay who had lost her parents, about Governor Stone and her determination to see justice done, about all the families that had been torn apart by the Shadowkin's cruelty. The Empire had wanted to teach humanity about fear, but they had instead taught them about hate. As the fleet approached the edge of the war zone, Alina received a message that made her smile for the first time in days. Ambassador Thyrak of the Zephyrian Alliance was requesting permission to come aboard the Harmony's Dream. The aliens who had once begged for human aid were now welcoming humanity as allies in their fight against the Shadowkin Empire. The war that humanity had tried to avoid was about to begin, but they would not be fighting alone. The Shadowkin had made their terrible mistake, and now they would learn the true cost of underestimating the species that had once chosen peace over war. The galaxy was about to discover that when humans finally decided to fight, they fought to win.